So recently a hot button issue has just arose within the Pokemon Go community regarding something that Niantic recently talked about, where they're going to be banning people who GPS drift, apparently. So we do need to talk about this because this is a very important issue, and I really do think that when you look at the nuance, this is going to cause some problems for Pokemon Go. Alright, how's it going everyone? Count Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon Go video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. Now before we get into today's topic, I have to mention that yesterday I put out a raid guide video for Terrakion, and I made a huge error. Basically, I stated that Crown Sword Zacian would be the best non-Mega Evolution Pokemon you could use. But in actuality, it's going to be Crown Shield Zamazenta. That is the one you will want to use. It is currently considered the #1 counter to this Pokemon, and I can't believe I made that blunder. I think it's because I did a couple of raids and I want to test out my new Shundo Zacian, which I got from Hyper Training, and I completely neglected the fact that Zamazenta is probably going to be the better option. So if you're raiding Terrakion and you happen to have yourself a really good Zamazenta that you've already powered up, then make sure you use that one. And I'm of course specifically talking about the crown form of Zamazenta. Don't just use a regular Zamazenta, you're not gonna have a good time. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's talk about today's topic because yeah, this was extremely concerning. Even I was kind of taken aback because I actually suffer a lot from GPS drift every now and then. So what is the specific thing that I'm talking about? Well, recently a player reported on the Sylph Road that a Niantic developer might have reached out to them on Discord or something like that, or at least in their Discord chat has like a Niantic developer, and they stated that they would be banning players who use GPS drift to avoid using remote raid passes, basically. And I understand that. Like if they have it designed so that you have to be in a certain vicinity in order to use green passes instead of the remote raid passes, and they don't want players to circumvent that by purposefully GPS drifting. If that's all that this is, I think it's understandable why they would want to ban players or at least suspend players for essentially exploiting the game, but I think it's also a bit of a gray area because, for example, when I went raiding in downtown Chicago a couple of days ago for Hisuian Lilligant Raid Day, I did GPS drift quite a lot. There were plenty of times where I would see the pink prompt where it would say, you need to be close to the gym to interact it. Like I would actually see that every now and then. That's very concerning that if they're going to start suspending players for something that might not even be in their control, I do think that's going to set a bad precedent. So I really do hope that this is just something that Niantic is throwing out there in case people are purposefully doing GPS drift in order to use regular raid passes instead of remote raid passes, because of course remote raid passes are quite expensive. I really do think that they need to be careful. I think, if they're just going to communicate this and then suddenly act on it, start banning players left and right, yeah, that's going to cause a lot of problems. But if they're just simply doing this to deter people from cheating, maybe giving that warning out there, I don't know. I still think it might be harmful. I don't think it's harmless. I do think that a lot of players might forego raiding because of this, or even so, they might just outright quit the game because they live in an area where they're just constantly GPS drifting and they don't want to get their account banned, so maybe they will quit the game. I really do not know. I haven't really talked to a lot of players regarding this. I'm just kind of going off of what I've been seeing online. But it does seem like it's creating quite a stir. Like even on the Sylph Road, I think I've seen 2, 3, 4 different posts talking about this specific issue. I really do think this is something that Niantic needs to communicate better. And when I say Niantic, I'm talking about the Niantic devs, not necessarily Scopely. Scopely may not even be aware of this. They may not even necessarily be fully on board with banning players for GPS drifting, but Niantic are the ones that are saying this. And if they're the ones that have the power to ban players, then they need to be very careful. I even said in a video I posted, I think it was about a week ago, that my greatest fear as a Pokemon Go player is getting falsely banned. and maybe I'll get banned for something that I wasn't even aware was breaking the terms of service, but Niantic will deem it so and I'll lose my account. Whatever the case may be, I really hope they don't get too ban heavy. I really do think this game thrives because Niantic has been somewhat lenient over the years. I think a lot of players do really enjoy the game, and sometimes they'll cut corners in order to get what they want. That's totally understandable, but I do think that for what it's worth, Niantic needs to be careful. That's really what it comes down to. Now, what if Niantic were to start banning players? What if this was going to be the start of something really terrible for Pokemon Go? Well, I think a lot of people are going to quit, first and foremost, but I just feel like that's something that is completely out of character for Niantic. If a whole bunch of players were to suddenly get banned for something like this, I really do think it will probably be something from Scopely. I don't think Niantic would actually do that. I mean, over the years, there has been so many people who have been breaking the terms of service, and they're still playing the game to this day. In fact, I have a kind of like a funny story. Like back when we had, I think it was Squirtle Community Day, the very first one. It was right before Pokemon Go Fest, I believe 2018, and this was of course the Pokemon Go Fest that was after the really bad Pokemon Go Fest that we had, I think the very first one. So this was the second Pokemon Go Fest, and of course they really wanted to knock it out of the park in order to actually make Pokemon Go Fest the thing. Of course they were very successful with that, but before that Pokemon Go Fest, they actually came out to Chicago to test out the connectivity, to test out the technical issues, because that was something they did not do the year before. And yeah, they basically asked all the local communities to just bring as many people out to Lincoln Park and Lincoln Park Zoo as much as they can, and they were going to test out the cell service signals, they were going to test out I think it was the portable cell towers and different things like that. And yeah, there were hundreds of people within this small area, and of course they got a really good test out of that. But there was a lot of people who were like multi-accounting. I even saw someone with like a spoofing app on their account. And people were doing this right in their faces. Like Niantic devs were literally walking around and they were seeing people with like 2 or 3 phones in their hands. So they are aware that people are cheating, but clearly those same players are still playing to this day. They've never even gotten like a warning. I'm not saying that Niantic is that relaxed. I'm just saying like there has been a bit of leniency. There has been a way of them turning their eyes, they're like turning a blind eye to like how people are playing. So I really do think that they're going to be lenient with this, if this is actually like a new policy or something. But, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. I think they're going to be lenient, but I really do not know. I think for us as Pokemon Go players, the best that we can do is just, I guess, try to prevent as much GPS drift as we can. I know some people are saying online that when they alt-tab out of the program, like if they go to a different like tab, like they'll untab out of Pokemon Go, maybe while they're in a raid lobby, they'll go to a website to check the IVs of the Pokemon they're about to raid, and then they go back into the game, that they're gonna find that their character has GPS drifted. And maybe this is something that could produce some false positives. I really do think you need to be careful. If you're in a raid lobby, do not open another game or another app. Just stay in the app and hope that you do not drift away. I really do think for Niantic, they need to understand that players will unintentionally GPS drift. It's been a thing in the game pretty much since the beginning, and Niantic hasn't done much to mitigate that. I don't think they can, to be honest with you. It's just the limitations of the game, and with GPS signals and cell towers and different things like that, like if you're in a big city, for example. So I just hope that they are fully aware of a lot of things. I hope this is just them just throwing it out there. They're not actually going to follow through on this, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, so these are just my thoughts regarding this issue. I know it's something that a lot of people are discussing online right now, and yeah, I think it's good that people are discussing it because we do need to have more eyes on this issue. We need to have more people talking about it so that Niantic can get some good feedback. If they're reading the Reddit posts, if they're talking to players or seeing what players are saying, have their ears to the ground, then I do think that they're going to be very careful. At the very least, I really hope they are. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts regarding everything that I talked about down below. Are you concerned about this whole issue? Do you feel like this is something that could be a bad precedent for Pokemon Go? Definitely share your thoughts, and yeah, let's have a great discussion. And thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, the best way you can do that is going to be by joining my Patreon. If you become a paid Patreon member, I'm going to add you to my Pokemon Go friends list. And that means for stuff like remote raids, the friendship system, opening and sending gifts. If you want to play Pokemon Go with me, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, I highly recommend you can do that by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms you see on the bottom of your screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow. And you'll have access to some exclusive content, and you'll be able to keep up with my daily life. With that said, that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself today, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Jinsula